Hello, everybody. So, some of you who have been with me for quite a long time will remember that I started a series about crafting basics. However, I only got one episode done. So I thought, you know what? We're going to start again from scratch and we're going to go through and I'm going to try and regularly upload stuff about crafting basics. So for those of you who are new to this, and new to my channel, welcome. So I'm really going to go with basic tools to start with. Okay, so really basic tools. So when I first started as a crafter, I literally had a clear ruler, which I would suggest you have a clear ruler. I would get one that has inches and centimeters on it. If you can get one that had inches on it and it doesn't go into tenths halfway up the ruler, that would be helpful. So this one here, I don't know if you probably can't see it. It starts off with inches and they're done in eighths, which makes sense. And then when it gets to about 6 inches, the rest of it is all done in tenths, which is really not helpful. So try and get yourself a clear ruler that is in inches on one side and eighths of inches, and the other side has centimeters on. So that is definitely one thing I would recommend. I would also recommend you get yourself a metal ruler. Now there's different ones you can get, and again I would get one that does eighths all the way up. This one does, and right at the end, right at the beginning and right at the end, it actually does like even more than eighths, like 16ths I think it does. So that's really good. This one is an X-cut one, and on the back it has this layer, if you can see it, a layer of like black, kind of like foam, so you've got a bit of grip. The only problem is if you're trying to cut something that's quite like it's got a little bit of you're not far off from the edge, then it doesn't actually catch on the foam and you can end up not cutting properly. So for that reason, these are good, but I think this one is a better one. So this one is actually, you can see it's got like an interesting cross section. This one's very well worn, as you can see. All my measurements are coming off. But I have had this for a very long time. But with this one, you can kind of, obviously it hasn't got that grip on the back of it like this one has, but I do find this one really useful. Again, make sure it's in inches and in centimeters. This one has eighths all the way along and centimeters all the way along. I think I'm going to need to replace this soon, because once I get past about 9.5 inches, it gets a bit difficult to read, and centimeters is never happening. so I would get yourself, as I said, a plastic ruler and then a metal ruler. You can just have one of the metal rulers, you don't have to have both, but I'm just giving you the information on both of them. I would also get yourself a decent pencil, just an HB is fine, and obviously a pencil sharpener and a pencil rubber, because you are going to need that rubber. I would also get yourself just a pen, just a normal biro. This is just like a normal black biro, and I use this for making notes. So I have a book which is just off to one side, and I make notes with everything that I make, so I know what I'm doing. So here's an example of my current notebook. As you can see, it is very full. So what I tend to do is I will write down, like for example this one here, I will write down what it's called. So if it's inspired by anybody, base card, I'll write everything down. I'll do little diagrams if I want to, and then I will try to put a little prototype and I'll stick it next to it. It does mean that this gets very, very full, very chunky, but it just means that I've got something to reference back to. All these little paper clips and pegs and whatever that are on it are just so that then when I'm on the page I'm actually want to be on now, I can kind of put it all to one side. What I'm going to do, because I've actually got a few of these that I've used, finished. Obviously you can't really put them on you can't really put them on a bookshelf. So what I think I'm probably going to do is find a box file or something and take all the pages out and maybe group them with thumb folds or sizes, or I don't know, pop-up cards all together or whatever, and try and do it that way, so it's a bit easier to kind of try to work through. But I always have that on the side of my desk. It's always here off camera, and then I use that and I can easily quickly work out what it is I'm doing, and it's just nice to have it all written down nice and neatly. So that's why I have a pen. The other thing I would say that you would need is obviously a pair of scissors. Now I just started off with a basic pair. This pair is a bit broken, as you can see, but just like a normal pair of scissors, sharp ones, make sure they're sharp. You can get those sets of like different sizes, so you can get a set that's got like a smaller pair than this in, and then this size, and then also a bigger size. If you can get something like that, then do that. Kitchen scissors are great as well, that kind of thing. You just want something that's sharp. You don't need to spend too much money. They don't need to be craft scissors. They could be, as I said, kitchen scissors or whatever, you know. And then this is something that I've had since I was a demonstrator. And I really like these. These are actually Fiskars. And you just literally slide the little orange button down, and then you can just cut. But I find them really good because what I do find is when I'm cutting here, I end up with an indent here. And if you've got any kind of mobility issues or any arthritis in your hands, etc., these are fabulous. There are other brands that do them. As I said, these are very old. I've had these probably for about 10 years and they're still sharp. So that shows how good they are. So I would recommend going with a good brand for something like this, because it will pay off. They weren't too expensive, I don't think. They might be a bit of secateurs, but they're just really good for like fussy cutting because you can kind of just get in there, and I just find them really good. There's not a lot of tension there. You know, it doesn't really hurt your hand, but they're just very useful. So I definitely recommend getting a pair of these as a basic crafter. This, I mean, you could argue this is something for later, but I think if you have ones with your hands, like as you can see, I've got arthritis, then these are invaluable. So definitely get yourself a pair of these if you have any kind of hand problems, or if you just struggle with like normal scissors. The other thing I would say you need to get is some kind of craft knife. Now, I love my Stanley knife. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily use this, but I think from my days of doing art A-level, I find it just super durable. It's really nice and easy to use. It's safe because I can put the blade away and then I haven't got to worry. I can pop it out easily. I just find it's good to hold. It's nice and sturdy. You can get a good grip on it. I find this really good. I used to use these for cutting mount board when I did my art A-levels years ago, and I've never looked back. I've just always used them. So you can get something like that, or if you don't want to use a stand knife, find it too heavy, because they are quite heavy, you can get other craft knives that have a better blade on the end of them. So you could get something a bit like this. This is an X-cut one, but there's loads of different brands that do them. And so if you take this off, as you can see, you've got a little blade there. So these are quite good as well. And these just pop out. You can actually, you know, just change the blades. Sometimes they have a little place you can keep them. In fact, this might actually have somewhere. Oh, yeah, so as I open that up, it makes that loose at the top. So yeah, so these are quite good. They're quite, you know, a bit more precision, I would say, than a Stanley knife. But yeah, I don't really use this very much. But these are quite useful. The other kind of blade that I used to use a lot as a demonstrator is this one here. And I used to find this really, really useful. So this just has a cover, again, same kind of blade as that other one. But I just found it really, the idea is you're supposed to be able to kind of guide it round. I don't find it very comfortable holding like that, but I used to find it very comfortable just like this, and I could go around circles really easily. I feel like you got a bit more rotation. I used to find this really, really useful. So as a demonstrator, I used to use it all the time. Haven't used it quite so much now. Tend to just use my Stanley knife. But yeah, just a couple of different types. Obviously, there's also those craft knives you can get that have snap-off blades. I don't think I would recommend those, because if you're trying to cut something, you know, quite thick, like a mount board or a thicker card, you might end up accidentally snapping it off without, you know, meaning to. Obviously, if you're going to get a craft knife and a metal ruler, you will also need a cutting mat of some description. This one was from Aldi. Super cheap. I think it came in a pack, actually. I think they had a pack of these smaller ones. I think it was a pack of 2 or something. And then you could also buy the larger one on its own if you wanted to. So here's the large ones. This is very large. So this one is like 17 inches by 11 inches, I think, roughly. So again, but this is quite useful if you're cutting like A4 or bigger, or 12 or 12, you need something a bit bigger. These are useful. And also these, if you go for one that has like inches on one side and then centimeters on the other, it's just really useful. And obviously don't use this for measurement because these probably aren't going to be that accurate. But for as far as just keeping things, you know, if you want to cut something in line, cut something straight, these are great. They don't have to be expensive. So you can get these in various places. As you can see, this one here has been well used, and this has got like inches on the other side. You can also use them as messy mats, as I clearly have here. I think that's just a bit of ink, but again, they can be quite useful for kind of messy mats as well. You can wipe them clean, because they're self-healing. When you cut them, you can just keep cutting. So this one I've cut. I don't know how well you can see the damage on this. There's so much damage on this. I use this all the time, but I've had it for years and it's still fine to use. Obviously, eventually you will have to, you know, get a new one. The other thing I like about these as well is quite often they have angles on them, which can be very useful if you're cutting something, because you can kind of line it up here and then you know, you can put your ruler on and you can know where the angles are. So I do find these very useful as well, and you will see me using these in multiple videos. So as a basic crafter, I would say this is kind of like your basic toolkit. I would say if you get these things, then you can pretty much go into crafting. Now, obviously, I haven't mentioned adhesives. I'm going to do that in a separate video. I just wanted to cover basic tools because I do get asked a lot. And I remember I used to demo in stores. Quite often I'd have people come past, oh, I've just got into crafting. What do I need? Well, this is just like the basic. And if you have this, you can make some good cards. You can. You don't have to buy lots of stuff. When I first started crafting, I didn't have much money, and I literally had this, and then I didn't buy pattern papers because I couldn't afford to. I used to use tissue boxes. I used to use, so here's a good example of a good tissue box. This is from Aldi, this tissue box. Look how beautiful that is. So this is the sort of thing I would do. I would cut this panel out, and this is card, it's not even paper. I would cut this panel out and I would use that. This one here I'd use, I might cut this out or put a flower there, so you don't, or a greeting there so you wouldn't see it. I'd literally use tissue boxes. I'd use tissue boxes. I'd use bits of ribbon out of diaries. I'd use chocolate boxes. That's another one. Thornton's used to have some really good, like, whatever. Obviously, this is not to sell. This is just for, people, giving it to friends. I remember there was a tissue box and it had a big, like, flower just in the corner here. And it was really nice. It was like pastel colours. And I actually, because it had one on here and it also had one on this side. So what I did was I fussy cut out this, and then I fussy cut it out again from the other side, but brought it in slightly because it had like layers to it. And I decoupaged it up. And nobody knew that that was a tissue box. So you really can do it cheaply. So that is my whistle-stop tour for Basic Tools Part 1. Okay, in my next episode, I will be doing like what I would count as your next level of tools up. So things that, if you're going to keep going in crafting, things that are really helpful, make your life a lot easier, etc. You don't necessarily need them, but they are, if you go further, when you're crafting with just this, there are certain things you can find a bit irritating. Like I didn't have what we call a bone folder, which is basically what you see me using to burnish score lines with. So something like this, I didn't have this to start with, and I got by without one. I would just use the edge of my ruler, or I'd use my nails or whatever. So things like this will be counted in my next video. So I would say this is like tools part 2, slightly more advanced, like, medium level, things that you find irritating. If you're crafting regularly, things that can be a bit irritating if you haven't got these certain tools. So I will do that for another video. But for this part 1, if you're starting out crafting, I would say this is like your basic level. You get by with this for quite a while. If I'm honest, I did it for months, maybe even years. I got by just with this. So yeah, so that's my part 1. So hopefully you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Please, if you can share this video, that really helps me. Leave a comment down below. Maybe you've been crafting a while and you have other things that you would like to add into this basic tool item, then please do let me know in the comments what you used to use when you were first crafting, or if you've started crafting. Do you have any questions? Do you have any, other things you want me to answer? So let me know. I will try and address any comments and whatever in the next few episodes of this. But I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you again next time. Bye.